what's fascinating to me is that 10 years ago when we would talk about these things on our show or psychedelics or your stuff was being just completely shut out of the mainstream media, now we're seeing you on Netflix. We're seeing Michael Pollan not only talk about some things on Netflix, cook on Netflix, now he can go through all of the psychedelics on Netflix.
Exactly.
It's
the world is changing.
Yes,
things are changing, and I have hope in that. I think that what I see also amongst my readers and amongst people who've given me feedback from the show, just general viewers, is that there is a growing questioning mood in society, that people are not willing to be told what to think by so-called experts. They don't want to be told what to think. People want to figure it out for themselves. There is a role for experts, there is a place for experts, but they shouldn't be the sole voice. There should be room for members of the public to make their own inquiries into the past, and there should be room for mavericks like me to do thorough and detailed research over a period of 30 years. I've been doing that research, and to present that research to the public and let the public make up their own minds. But for my 30 plus years of boots on the ground research, of scuba diving, of being in some of the most inhospitable and difficult places on earth, in being in war zones, in putting my life at risk, for that to be written off as pseudoscience and pseudo-archaeology by a bunch of chair-bound so-called experts is something that I will not accept.
Good for you, Graham Hancock. Final thoughts. In some ways, it's refreshing to see the public question, like they never have before, government officials, health officials, everything. I don't even think we saw this 5 years ago.
No,
Graham.
it's a new phenomenon, and it's partly because I think the internet is a very complicated thing, but it's played a role in this. It's allowed conversations to occur that previously would have been dominated by mainstream media alone. And I think that the other thing that's happened is that government officials, governments in general, are being revealed as liars. That they just make stuff up all the time, and the truth comes out. So we have experience that we have direct personal experience that we're unwise to trust everything our government says. Okay, and I now have direct personal experience that we're unwise to trust everything archaeologists say as well.
You travel a lot, and you travel a lot in America as well, and you see and feel and have your finger on the pulse of what people are saying or doing, and now what we're seeing on our social platforms and the new ways we might be going. What do you think the future brings? Is it going to get more divisive first? Is it going to be more challenging? Do you think we will find a way?
I think we'll find a way. I don't see why it has to get more divisive. I think it comes back to what I was saying earlier on, that we are all one human species. We all have the same hopes and fears and ambitions and dreams. We all want to love our kids. We want to be loved by our kids. We want to be surrounded by love. We want to give love. This is true of every human being everywhere in the world. The next step for us is to recognize our unity as a species, to recognize everything that brings us together, and to start not paying so much attention to the things that divide us. Often the things that divide us are artificial anyway. They're invented by politicians. Politicians thrive on division. A politician becomes necessary if you have some enemy that is built up, that needs to be fought. Then you feel you need a leader who's going to help you against that. The politicians of all kinds in all countries in the world are playing this game, making their population feel afraid and suspicious and feel hatred towards other people. In many ways, the huge problems that we face in the world result from the very low quality of leadership that we have in the world today. Very, very poor leadership, which is not motivated by concerns for the future of human race, but is only motivated by the immediate interests of the politicians concerned. And the veil is being ripped away from this now. People are realizing how many lies they've been told by those authority figures. And that is then leading to questioning of other authority figures all around the world. And I think part of the reaction to Ancient Apocalypse is because I am questioning a particular group of authority figures. I'm questioning the archaeologists who claim to control, to have full knowledge of our past. I'm questioning them. And The Guardian actually expressed it that way. Where does it stop? If he questions archaeologists, what's going to be questioned next? Our governments? I mean, they clearly regard it as a slippery slope. If somebody starts questioning any kind of authority, then this is a danger to all authority. Well, perhaps it is, and perhaps it's needed. Perhaps we need to take a fresh look at the way we function as human beings on this planet and the way we relate to one another. And the very first thing we're going to have to do is get rid of this really low class of leadership that presently is running the world.
When you sat down at my table in our old studio 10 years ago, Graham, one of the most poignant things you said was anyone who would consider running for political office should have 10 ayahuasca ceremonies.
Absolutely.
I remember you said that. I think you said it maybe on our show first.
I stand by it as well. Yeah, I probably was on your show first. I absolutely think this because of the way that psychedelics, and ayahuasca is particularly effective in this regard, but because of the way that they jolt us out of a rigid framework and start us being open to other thoughts, I think that if politicians were required to have 10 sessions of ayahuasca before they could even apply for the job, oh, you've not had 10 sessions of ayahuasca? Sorry, you can't apply for the job. If they'd had those 10 sessions before they applied for the job, those 10 sessions would confront them with their own baggage. That's the very first thing that ayahuasca does, is it stuffs your own baggage right in your face. The harm and the damage and the hurt you've done is thrown at you. And this is you. Deal with it. They would have to deal with that. By the time they'd been through 10 sessions, I would say the vast majority of them wouldn't want to become politicians at all. They'd want to work on their own lives instead, to become better people than they were before. And they would realize that the path that they want to lead us down in terms of politics is a path of destruction aimed only at their own self-interest. They just wouldn't carry on in that role. And those who did carry on wanting to be leaders would be better leaders than they otherwise might have been, because they'd have been forced into that introspection and looking at how they behave and about how their behavior impacts and influences others. And this is something that politicians almost never do. They look at how it affects their numbers. They look at how it affects their votes. That's what they're interested in, not on the long-term consequences of the decisions they make.
Yeah, well, if I had become mayor of London, I would have at least had 6 ceremonies. And, when I had those ceremonies in Costa Rica a few years ago in the movie Reconnect, you also have parts in as you're talking to me in the studio. I was reminded of how Mother Ayahuasca really is the mother of psychedelics for me.
Absolutely.
And for me, there are these other things here, but she was there giving me guidance,
absolutely,
a game plan, literally 10 commandments of the way I would go on to live my life for the next 4 or 5 years.
Totally. There's a real presence there. There's a real presence, and most often that presence manifests in female form. We speak of Mother Ayahuasca. This is a reality for anybody who's done a sufficient amount of work with ayahuasca. Those who haven't experienced ayahuasca just dismiss it and think, oh, this is impossible. But the fact of the matter, have the experience first and then see if it's impossible. Don't just write it off as impossible on the basis of your a priori assumptions about how the world works. Have the experience and then talk about it. And I think that they would say very different things. There's something very special about ayahuasca. There's even something special about its manufacture and the way that it is made. As you know, it's 2 different plants. One of them contains dimethyltryptamine, which is not orally active, and the other contains a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which allows the DMT to be orally activated. This is a curious thing because the monoamine oxidase inhibitor is contained in the ayahuasca vine. It is not psychedelic in its own right. The DMT is contained in the leaves of the chacruna plant. It is not active orally in its own right. You can make a tea of hundreds of leaves and drink it. You won't have any effect whatsoever. So we have 2 plants that are inactive on their own. But when you put them together, they produce this extraordinary brew that allows the powerful psychedelic effects of dimethyltryptamine to be mediated for 4 or 5 hours. When people smoke DMT, which is the only other way to get it into your system quickly and easily, they have a 10-minute journey to the other side of reality. With ayahuasca, that's much slower, much more moderated, much more organic. You feel yourself to be part of this jungle, and you have a sense that we're dealing with the mother goddess of this planet, who deeply cares about the human race, and who has time for each individual to say, examine your own behavior, This is what you were in the past. You don't have to go on doing that. You can change your behavior. You can become a more nurturing, more positive, more helpful human being than you've been before. Ayahuasca teaches these lessons. It's very humbling. She puts us through a humbling experience, and I would like to see all politicians have the guts to put themselves through that humbling experience before they decide to pursue a political career.
Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.